Well, hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to Fridays with Sandy. That would be Sandy Kreisberg, founder.
Howdy, everybody. Sandy Unmasked here.
Here he is in Boston. I'm here in California, and we have Jamie in Johannesburg. Welcome, Jamie. He's our candidate for today, and he's got a fascinating profile. I actually loved reading about it. Yeah, there's the basics. There's, a 3.4 from one of the continent's best universities in Africa, of course. There's 730 GMAT.
Hey, Jamie, what is that university? Just for informed listeners.
Yeah, so it's called the University of the Witwatersrand. It's one of Africa's top two universities, generally ranked in the top 200 in the world.
Great. And it's pronounced by people in the know as what? Wits?
Wits is the nickname.
Good.
Yeah.
So you went to Wits, which is what he said before. And what's the cool way to refer to Johannesburg?
Joburg, or even Josieburg sometimes, more affectionately, I would say.
Yeah, Joburg. Yeah. Okay.
So we have Jamie, who's a behavioral economist and a consultant with an economic consulting firm that is actually the largest such firm on the continent of Africa. He's been promoted twice. He's worked in really interesting places: Kenya, Rwanda, Nigeria, and South Africa, of course. He's a senior associate, is his title there. He's a pretty well-rounded guy. I mean, he plays piano. He's been in the choir. He is a national champion ballroom dancer. Would love to see that. He also was very involved in sports at the university and was on a sports scholarship for cricket, but he played rugby and other sports. And his targets are Stanford, Harvard, MIT, London Business School, and NCOD. Wow. Okay. Interesting.
A lot going on. You're a very powerful candidate. Could you tell us where peers of yours at Genesis Analytics have gone to business school?
Well, so when I started, my first manager in the first 6 months went to do an Oxford MBA, and then about a year later, my next manager went to London Business School.
Yeah. So what's driving you to America?
I just think the best universities in the world are there. There's specific things for different programs, but originally I was going to apply to just MIT, LBS, and INSEAD. And then I realized the only reason I wasn't applying to Harvard and Stanford is because I was a bit intimidated, and I didn't feel like that was a good reason.
Well, John, should he be intimidated?
No, absolutely not. He's got.
Should he be optimistic?
He's checking a lot of boxes.
Yeah, I agree with John. You're checking a lot of boxes. Harvard Business School and Stanford are crazy about Africa. You're not only work in Africa, you're a South African citizen. John, do you happen to know how many South African passport holders are in a typical Harvard class?
No, but Sandy, I bet you do.
2 classes combined, usually 3, 4, or 5 people. That's been consistent over the last 10 years. So it's usually 2 a class or 1.5 a class, 3, 4, 5. So you've got some buddies there.
So how do we maybe become one of those 3, 4, 5?
Well, can I add something in here? My neighbor actually for the last 2 years was supposed to go to HBS. Last year he's deferred. So if I get in, I'll be in his class.
Okay, I don't think they'll hold that against you. What was his background?
He's in private equity.
Yeah. Okay. That's also a feeder industry for HBS. Okay, I think your chances at HBS, you should definitely apply. I think guys like you get in and don't get in based on execution and a little bit of luck and not blowing the interview. We can deal with the interview when you get there. I think your chances of being interviewed are pretty good. They love South Africa. You're working for a behavioral economics firm. They like that. You've worked
Can I
on,
ask a question?
yeah.
Well, then, do you think I'll have to do any explaining about what behavioral economics is?
Well, you could, you should. They'll know what it is, but
Okay.
the bullets in your resume, what you often say is behaviorally informed.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the lingo.
I would unpack that,
Okay.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think man, Harvard's going to like this, and you're a likable guy. South Africa thing is positive. They like ballroom dancing there too. I don't know if the admissions committee does, but I believe there's a pretty active ballroom dancing club at Harvard.
Okay, but what about let's go to what are some of the issues that could crop up with this application.
Please.
So obviously the 3.4 GPA, even in a triple major like philosophy, politics, and economics, is below the class average at Harvard. And the 730 is just right at the median. And the quant scores in that 730 aren't as impressive as you would like them to be, particularly for someone who's working in.
Well, I'll put a finer point on it, John.
Yeah.
His stats for white males is pretty below the median.
Yeah, that's true, because this is the other thing we always need to remind people. When you look at class stats, you know, for a white male, they're going to have to be, frankly,
they're higher, man. It's just
higher.
the way it is. For whatever reasons you want to
Competitive.
imagine, they're true.
So the big question here is, you can't do anything about an undergraduate transcript, but you can do something about a test score. Should Jamie be retaking the GMAT?
Yeah. Do you think tell us your GMAT history, Jamie?
So I've taken it 3 times. I think I got probably nervous all 3 times. The first time I got really nervous and got a 670, then a 710, and then a 730 most recently. I think for my practice test, I can do a little bit better, probably a 740 or 750 at least. I've also got an alternative transcript. I did my master's in economic science where I came top of my class and I got the equivalent of a 4.0.
Good.
I've also done a CFA, so I think I've got alternative stuff as well.
Wow. So I'm not so sure he needs to retake the GMAT given those 2 facts.
You think a 750 would make a difference?
No, I actually don't. I mean, when you're telling me you graduated top of your class with a master's in a quant subject, I don't think you need to do it. What, Sandy, what do you say?
I'm usually the wise guy on this and the cynic, but in this case, I'd agree with John. I don't think your fate at Stanford turns on a 750. I think your fate at Stanford turns on execution of your do-gooder story, both through the essay and the recommendations.
And to that point, what is the do-gooder story here? You know, when you have to write the essay, what matters most to me and why, what does Jamie say?
Let me tell you what to say, Jamie. And this is the Stanford template, believe it or not. Personal growth, not in these words, okay? The theme is personal growth matters to me, okay? That's the theme. And what the evidence is what matters to me are projects I've done that have had a double impact. They've had an impact on, underserved populations, underserved geographies, and they've also had an impact on my own growth and awareness. You get it?
Yep.
And then you spin those you go, a really important project was my HIV awareness, where I had to overcome this and that, and I did it by doing 1, 2, and 3, and really got a better understanding of how you help people help themselves. And another important project was this, and 4 projects, and you're done.
Now we need to tell our audience that we always have a pre-call before the actual taping, and in the pre-call we discovered that Jamie had led a public health initiative to halve the risk of HIV for 40,000 men a year. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
consequential for Stanford.
yeah, that's Elvis Presley to Stanford. That's Elvis Presley with singing "Are You Lonely Tonight" or something, whatever a big Elvis song is.
Plus the fact that you've had exposure to many countries in Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, Nigeria, obviously South Africa, where you are, is important. And I think it can be leveraged as well in those essays. Don't you, Sandy?
Yeah, yeah. You're you got a lot going for you, buddy. And I think if you just execute, along the lines we've been talking about, and you're a smart guy, you've picked it up. I can feel that. You got a real chance, even for the white male wicket, getting through the white male wicket, if that's the right word.
He'll dance his way through that.
What's that?
He'll dance his way through that.
Yeah. Ballroom dancing, right? What was it? Just give us some idea of this bullet, designed a behaviorally informed messaging campaign to increase repayment for late stage delinquent loans.
Yeah, that might be a bit jargon heavy. So basically, when
Who
people
are the
don't pay their
borrowers?
so you're a bank and you've got a bunch of customers who aren't repaying their loans, and so we design a messaging campaign that encourages them to do that in a way that uses insights from psychology.
I see. Does that insight include having some guy meet them in a dark corner and say, "If I were you, pal, if I were you, buddy, I'd repay that loan"?
I wonder if Sandy has experience with this.
I paid off my student loans a long time ago. I'm proud of that.
I'd say the point of having the psychology is that you don't need the baseball bat.
Yeah. So could you put some color on that? What does that mean?
So behavioral economics, the field that I'm in, uses insights from psychology primarily to change behavior that's related to economic problems like repayments of loans, saving for retirement, or even public health problems.
So we're looking for the example here.
Okay, so take retirement. A lot of people think that they'll save just as much for retirement if they spend all their money, their salary, say, and then whatever's left over, they'll just put that in the bank.
No.
It turns out that
want you
takes
to
a lot of
tell me what you
self-control.
did. Excuse me. I want you to tell me
Okay.
what you did within this resume bullet, which is a messaging campaign to increase repayment of deadbeats. Okay, what did you tell the deadbeats? That's what's going on, right?
Okay, yeah, got you. Okay, so in that particular example, what we found is that people often weren't aware of when their debit orders were coming off. And so we'd time the messages so that they would be timely, I guess. And so that they'd make sure they'd have some reserves around their salary time that they put aside to allocate to their loans.
So you bugged them just before they were getting income from another source. Is that
exactly? Yeah.
When they had money to pay their bills.
Yeah.
That's it.
Good.
Yeah. Not when we're at the end of the cycle and they had nothing left in the coffers.
Yeah, I call that a pretty basic example of behavior economics. Ask for money when the person just got something, right?
Yeah, but it is an important.
Hey, it's an industry. Far be it from me to call it into question. All right, you're.
What about your post MBA goals? What do you want to do with the MBA?
Yeah, good question.
So I think I want to go into, obviously behavioral economics is a very specialized field, and I think I want to do something more general in financial services. I'm tossing up whether I want to do management consulting, like an MBB, focused on financial services, and then go to fintech, or just go directly to a fintech.
Yeah, fintech. You think that's a good goal for this guy, John? After you tell our people what fintech is?
Yeah, I kind of like management consulting a little bit more because it kind of builds on your earlier experience. For your background and for the schools that you're targeting, it's sort of a no-brainer career to go into. You don't have to do it once you get there. You can do whatever you want. But I think
He's also the bad guys.
Good idea. in MBB.
That is the bad guy. You're working for the bad guys, okay? From the admissions committee's point of view, from the checks on the admissions committee, FinTech is the bad guys. What you want to do is do general consulting with a, like I said before, the double impact projects where you can help X, Y, and Z do A, B, and C good things. That's the way I would formulate your goals. It's real important.
Okay.
And MBB all
Some good
have,
advice.
all have economic consulting practices and arms, which are increasingly applying behavioral economic models to analyze problems and come up with solutions.
Yeah,
Okay.
I want to be a leading consultant in Africa and apply behavioral economic principles and general finance principles to, have real positive impacts. That's your story, and you should be. That's your story, and you should be sticking with it.
Okay, I will.
Okay, percentage odds for Stanford. What do you say?
Man,
I think they're pretty darn good.
well, I'd call them like, 30%, which is kind of 35%, which is as high as we go.
I'll take that.
Yeah, school where the admit rate is 6-7%, incidentally.
Yeah.
Harvard, I think he's up to 50, don't you?
I think his chances of being interviewed are 50%. And after that,
He comes across really well, very
Yeah,
personable, articulate, thoughtful. He's very reflective about what he's done.
yeah. So I think I've seen a lot of smart people below the Harvard interview. It's kind of a subconscious ad for Sandy's mock interview practice. But you can never count on not blowing the Harvard interview.
Okay.
Okay, but 50%, I would just tell our audience, Sandy does not ever go higher than 50% for Harvard because there is always a random factor that you can't account for, and admissions at the elite level is highly unpredictable.
There is some randomness out there.
And
once you throw in the interview, it becomes more so.
But you got everything it takes to go to Harvard, to do well, to be a star there.
I've seen a lot of aces blow the
Your
interview.
classmates would love you at Harvard or any of these schools, okay? MIT, got to be 50+%, right?
MIT really goes for this kind of story.
LBS,
Let me tell you about MIT. Just got to, for those other schools, you got to convince them they're not your second choice. So for MIT, you've got to do a full court press. You've got to tell them, I've been to your website. I saw the MIT guy when he visited. You really make it like you're focused on them.
And that's true for LBS and NCR, because they're going to look at you and they're going to say, this guy is Harvard, Stanford material.
Not really. It's less important. No. NCR and LBS, they've got people who are there. They're very often they're the first choice. You know what I mean? This guy wants to go to school in Europe. They're not going to say, oh, this guy's applying to Harvard. Sure. To be safe, make every school, make your application appear that you really love the school, you're informed about it, you've done everything possible, you've spoken to alums, you've gone to their sessions, yada, yada, yada. Sure.
Got it.
But really important for...
Okay, and the last point, should he spend his time perfecting his essays, making sure the applications that he sends out are airtight, or spend his time studying for the GMAT and taking that damn test again? Yes or no?
No, I think you should spend your time doing a serviceable application, okay? And what you should really spend your time on is, let me tell you what the hard thing is for you. Managing up with your recommenders.
Yeah.
You've got to inform them that you're doing this. Sometimes that's difficult. And once you get that out of the way, you've really, nobody likes to write recommendations, okay? You've got to say, this is where, you got to make it as easy as possible, including saying, I'll write you a draft of the recommendation.
Right.
and do that.
So I think I've got that sorted in terms of their willingness and ability to do it. One snag might be that they're not my current bosses. They both left 6 months ago. So they've worked for me. I mean, I've worked with them for the majority of my career. And that's why they're my
fine. Okay, the fact that you're not your current supervisor is something you can explain in that little box about, the application has a box, is there any wing wang we need to know? And you say, my recommenders are not my current supervisors. They are people I have worked with for X years prior to that. My current supervisors are both whatever they're doing. My current supervisor.
New and don't know me as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Whatever the truth is.
In the coaching, in America, executives who fill these recommendations tend to be unrestrained in their ability to be effusive for their candidate on their candidate's behalf. I don't know how it would be in Africa, but I think you need to, help coach and.
Yeah, we don't need any British understatement here.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Recommendation that says Jamie is the best person I've met both personally and professionally in this life and my 3 prior lives. Okay. That means he's okay. All right.
Okay, got it.
All right, there you have it. We think really highly of Jamie's chances. This ballroom dancer, we think, can dance his way into Stanford and Harvard and onto the dance floor at MIT and NCR in London. So Jamie, good luck to you and to all of you out there. We wish you good luck on your journey to an MBA. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.
Shalom.